Do you consider yourself a resilient person? Are you resilient? Have you ever thought about how important being resilient is? Do you know what resilient and being resilient looks like? In this episode, episode 26, I'm going to share with you some ways, some transformative ways that running for political office can build your resilience. Yep, that's what I said. Running for political office can build your resilience. Now, I'm not talking about what I heard. I am talking about live experiences. Have you ever felt like you were kicked in the stomach? Have you ever been kicked in the stomach? Have you ever had people to unfriend you on Facebook? Have you ever been front page news or 6 o'clock, 11 o'clock headline story? Have you ever had rejection? All of those things can happen, did happen to me, and probably happened to a lot of other people who have run for political office. But it can help build your resilience. And we're going to talk about that in this episode of Reset to Reinvent.
Today's episode of Reset to Reinvent podcast is brought to you by the Adams Group Agency, developing final expense leaders.
Hello, 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 and welcome to episode 26 of Reset to Reinvent podcast. And I'm so excited today. I hope you are having a wonderful day, and I hope you have a wonderful week as we kick off the new week in the month of September. The month of September is still National Life Insurance Awareness Month. The month of September is still National Self-Care Awareness Month. If you didn't get a chance to hear last week's episode where we tied in the relationship between self-care and having an insurance policy, a life insurance policy, you need to check it out. Check out episode 25 if you haven't already. Okay. And also, what I'd like for you to do, whatever platform that you're on, as you're listening or watching on YouTube, subscribe, download, share, and spread the good news about Reset to Reinvent. I really appreciate that. And also, I have started a school community. And I would like for you can go into footers and be able to see the link to go into HBA Academy, or you can type in school.com in your web browser and just type in HBA Academy, HBA Academy, and check it out. Check it out. You've got 7-day free trial. And what I've got on there, there's a classroom. There is a classroom where I've got so many different ebooks on there, books on sales, everything from how to talk to your potential prospect, how to deal with getting the client warmed up so that they'll like you. And it talks about, one of the books addresses your fear of sales, fear of failure, those type of things, and just lots of ebooks on there. And there's a couple of courses, and this is all about personal development. You do realize that personal development is a choice. Personal development is something that you have to do. It can't just come to you without you being very intentional about it. And that's what Reset to Reinvent is all about. Not only personal development, but sharing some ways how you can get out of a deep hole, get out of a ditch, deal with adversity, overcome adversity better, reinvent to reset to reinvent. Because sometimes we have to do that. Sometimes we get in the point of our life where, you know what? Oh my goodness, things just aren't going in this path. Maybe I need to go another way. And that's okay. But you've got to realize it. But the thing about it, oftentimes you can't really discover those things until you pursue personal development. Get around a different group of people, do something different. Read books and all of those things. And so if you go to HBA Academy, you're going to see a little bit of all of that. And I want you to check it out. I want you to check it out. HBA Academy. This is your assignment for today. Assignment for this week is to go in and tell me what you think. You've got a 7-day trial, so you can go and read some of the ebooks, download them, use them, apply them, and help yourself get better. And don't we all want to get better? And so today's episode, we're talking about becoming resilient. We're talking about getting better in terms of being able to overcome adversity a little quicker than maybe we would like, than we really would like to. Because oftentimes, when we think about the word resilient, so here's what I did. Okay. As we explore some things, I want to talk about, first of all, the definition of resilience is the capacity to withstand or to recover quickly from difficulties, from toughness. And when I share with you some of these transformative ways that running for a political office can help strengthen that resilience muscle, oh my goodness, you're going to be like, oh my goodness. Now, let me just say this. I am not saying go and run for political office so that you can build your resilience. But what I am saying is that if that is something that you choose to do or would like to do, I can assure you that running for a political office will build your resilience, because it did for me. Okay. You don't realize how resilient you are until you've gone through some stuff, until you're on the front page news, until you've gone through some stuff and people have lied about you in public, and just awful things that can happen in the whole political arena. And, politics, as we all know, can be ugly, but it also can be a very rewarding opportunity. Now, despite and in the middle of everything that I'm going to be sharing with you today in this episode of Reset to Reinvent, obviously now it's been 11 years since the last time I ran for political office, and it is the last time that I run for political office. But I'm not bitter. I'm not, hating on anybody. I'm just going to keep some things real for you. And we're talking about building resilience. And so the capacity to withstand or to recover quickly from difficulties and toughness. That's what resilience is all about. And it's later on in this episode, I'm also going to talk about why. It doesn't even matter to be resilient. And we're going to talk about some ways to let you know that, yeah, it does matter. Because do we want to stay stuck where we are right now? Today is the 15th of September 2025. In this episode, it's a Monday. Do we want to look back a year from now and we're in the same place that we were? this year from last year, or going into 2026, you look back and you're in the same place, you're thinking the same thoughts, you're not reading as much as you would like to read, and you're just in the same place. Is that what you want? No, but we got to do some stuff. We've got to step out of those comfort zones. We've got to build that resilience. Okay, we've got to figure out a way, because as entrepreneurs and as women entrepreneurs in general, you are going to go through some stuff. Okay, life, even if you're not an entrepreneur, you're going to go through some stuff. And it's how we deal with them, with the challenges, that we're able to soar to the next level and then be a model or be a role model for the people that's coming behind us. Whether you have children, nieces, nephews, great nephews, great nieces, you know? And so we're talking about resilience today. 9 transformative ways running for a political office can help build your resilience. Now I know someone is saying, like, what in the world? How and what? Okay, so let's do this before we get started. You know, because when we think about politics, most people, first thing that comes to mind is something negative, because politics can be so divisive. And here in the Augusta area, for example, we've got an election coming up for one of the district seats that was left void by one of our commissioners, and then next year 2026 is the mayoral race. Okay, and that's coming up again. And so, the Augusta area is going to be on fire when it comes to politics. Okay, and there's going to be a lot of people, and I encourage people to consider running for political office, but your heart has got to be right. Your heart has got to be pure. Why do you want to run for public office? What is it that you want to do? What do you want to accomplish? And you'll find out a lot about yourself and your sense of resiliency when you run for political office. But let's look at the definition of politics. Okay, y'all ready for this? Okay, the activities associated with the governance of a country or other area, especially the debate or conflict among individuals or parties having or hoping to achieve power. There's 2 key words in here that makes politics what it is, and that's conflict and power. People who run for political office, yes, there's going to be 2 sides. There has to be 2 sides, or else, what would be the point of running for a political office? There has to be 2 sides, okay? And the discord that can come between the 2 sides is directly related to power. Someone wants to have power. Now, I ran for political office 3 times. I ran for mayor in 2005. I ran for a state representative seat in 2006. And then I turned around in 2014 and ran for the office of mayor of Augusta again. So I've run for political office in the Augusta area 3 times, y'all. And I know some people, and I did have some family members who are like, oh my gosh, why would you put yourself out there again? Because the 2005 race was the race itself was fun and enlightening. You get a chance to meet a lot of people and make friends that are lifelong friends, even from 2005. But there is a dark side to politics. Okay. And it's that sense of power and conflict, power and conflict. And, sometimes when I think about when I did run for mayor in 2005. I was naive. I was so naive. I was, and I still am, a community builder. I'm about unity. The way I was brought up, having lived overseas, my early formative years, being able to work with diverse groups of people, that's part of who I am. And running for political office, that was a part of my platform in terms of unity and all of that. I wasn't thinking, oh, I want to be mayor because I want power. Now, if someone wants to run for political office and that's what they want, that's fine. I'm just saying that that just wasn't my agenda. Okay. And then, of course, when you think about politics, is going to be conflict because there's two sides. And so when there's two sides, I'm of the opinion, can we agree to disagree? Can we have a conversation about politics without there being, so much hatred and just ugliness? That's naive. Okay, that's just naive. We don't live in this perfect rose colored society, because the heart of man and the fall of man years and years and centuries ago with Adam and Eve, it's we're flawed. We're flawed human beings. And because we're flawed, there's going to be that conflict and that tug of war, and it's a matter of how you fit in all of that. And so we're talking about building resilience, and so let's talk about that. Okay, so I just believe that running for a political office can be transformative as it relates to you building your resilience. And why do you need resilience? I mean, wake up on any given day, look at your news feed on your phone, turn on the television. There's a lot of hell going on out there. We're in a tumultuous time. We're in uncertain times. But we've got to live. We got to live for our children and our grandchildren and our great children and we've got to live in this society. Somehow, how are you going to navigate all of that if you're not resilient? You're going to crumble. You're going to crumble just like somebody picking up a piece of paper and throwing it away. You're going to crumble. No, we can't do that. We have to be resilient. So one thing about running for political office, here's what it does for you. Here's what it's done. All of these 9 transformative ways that we're going to talk about impacted me are things that I've experienced. I ran for public office 3 times. And I don't know how often you get a chance to just sit down with someone who's run for political office, but they can tell you some stories. Okay, they can tell you some stories of because we don't see this on the front page news, different things that may happen along the way, but yet they keep you keep going, because sometimes you just have to realize it goes with the territory. And certainly in 2005, I didn't have a clue. Okay, I was so naive. But my heart was pure. Okay, my heart was pure. So the first one is self-discovery. Okay, 9 transformative ways running for political office can build resilience. The first one is self-discovery. This process, it forces you as a candidate to reflect on your values, your beliefs, and your motivation. This self-discovery fosters a deeper understanding of yourself, and this can help lead to your personal growth. politics can be so ugly. It can, if you allow it, change who you are, change your beliefs. People can be very persuasive and charismatic, and people who are, dangling big donations in your face. They can try to persuade you, and they will try to persuade you to lean a certain way that may be a little bit off of who you are and your belief and your values. So at some point, you've got to realize you've got to be resilient and do that self-discovery and see and make sure that you are clear of who you are and what your beliefs are, what your values are, and don't stray from that. I remember one time someone approaching me about a large donation. In the state of Georgia, I believe if your donation is $100 or less, then it's not going to be public knowledge. So you can have a whole lot of people to I think it's $99. It's either $99 or 100. And because it's been a minute since I've been, but I remember there's a lot of people that will donate, right under, because they want to stay under the radar. They don't want to, people to know that they donate on an XYZ campaign. And there's a lot of different reasons for that. And I ain't mad at them. Okay. But this particular person wanted to donate a considerable amount. Can't remember the amount, but it was more than $100. And the one thing he said to me, he says, so, when you do win, okay, of course, when you're running for political office, you're not saying, well, if I win, maybe if I win, you got to go in there confident and bold and say, hey, look, yes, I intend on winning this race. Okay. And so in 2005, yeah, we were strong, we were bold, and it was about unity and bringing the community together. And running for political office, the first time that I'd ever run for political office was for the office of mayor. And I remember this person saying, well, when something comes up, when a particular item comes up for a vote, you will lean toward what my thinking is. Is that correct? And I looked at him and I'm like, no, sir. I'm going to vote on what's the best interest of the entire community. I'm going to weigh all of the options and look at the pros and the cons. I'm not going to just be a rubber stamp. And he withdrew his donation to me. Okay. He hadn't made the donation yet, but we had that conversation. And that's the kind of stuff that takes place in politics. But what it does is help you self-discover. It helps you to dig deep to make sure that you are in a line with your beliefs and your values. Okay. What running for political office, another transformative way that running for political office can build resilience, is goal setting and achievement. One thing when you think about us as entrepreneurs and women, one of the things that we lack is a very strategic goal setting, goal planning strategy. And if we do, we don't stay with it. We don't stay with it because we allow stuff to get in the way. But you've got to have a vision. You've got to have some place that you want to go, somewhere that you want to go, that roadmap. And goal setting helps you do that. So when you're campaigning, it requires setting clear objectives and strategizing to achieve them. We're talking about building resilience, okay? And remember that resilience is that inner part of you that's going to help you continue moving forward, whether you're running for a political office or whether you're pursuing a new career, whether you're just dealing with life in general, it is so important to have that resilience muscle strong so that you can withstand, because you're going to go through some stuff. You're going to go through some stuff in life. in general. Many of you listening, you're nodding your head saying, yeah, whew, Helen, you are exactly right. Overcoming fear. You know what? That is one of the things that a lot of us, we need to build our resilience muscle because we're fearful. Running for political office, you can't be fearful, because people will talk about you. People will unfriend you. People will unfriend you on Facebook. One person can say one thing, and it becomes a whole stream of dialogue and untruths and people's opinions and all of that. And before you know it, you're knocked out. You're knocked out. Now, this fear, the overcoming fear, is so important because think about it. Many of us, we fear asking for a raise on our job. We fear saying something to a good friend or relative that can really help them. We fear, those of us in the insurance business, we fear knocking on the door of that next person to introduce yourself and let them know that you help people with insurance. You got to overcome your fear. So I remember one of the things that I became very good at in terms of in the insurance industry is either knocking on doors or knocking on the door of a lead of person that requested information. And because when you're running for a political office, you're knocking on strangers' doors. You're knocking on the door and you're introducing yourself. You're introducing yourself and saying, hey, I'm such and such, I'm running for the office of mayor and I sure would love your vote. Can I count on your vote? And you do that over and over and over again. You get a team of people and you go out, and now there's going to be some that will look at you and say, well, why should I vote for you? And that's when your beliefs, your values, your sense of resiliency will come up, and then you let them know. You talk about your platform. Okay? You talk about your platform. And then you ask questions. Ask questions of maybe what they would like to see in the city or whatever the office that you're running for. So we're talking about how running for a political office can help you build your resilience. And if your fear is overcome, you're more confident. If you're more confident, that means that you can push past whatever that adversity that you've been dealt with. Okay. You're able to strengthen that resilience muscle. Just like you're gone to the gym. You're gone to the gym, and I haven't been to the gym in a long time. Okay. So you're building that muscle. And when you build that resilience muscle, you're going to look back and say, wow, okay, yeah, that hurt. And some of the things that we go through running for a political office, yes, we get hurt, we get our feelings hurt. But what that has done, because if you're still standing, if you're still breathing, baby, you can go, you can keep going, you can keep going. And that's what resilience is all about. You've got to be able to keep going and go and be stronger as a result. Okay, here's another one. The 9 transformative ways running for political office can help build your resilience. Conflict resolution. Now, remember, in the definition of politics, I mentioned conflict is one of them. There's going to be conflict because there's going to be one side and the other side, political party versus another political party, your belief versus another belief, your value versus another value. There's going to be A and B and A and B. There's going to be a conflict, always going to be a conflict. Okay. So political campaigns often involve disagreements and opposition. Learning to navigate these conflicts constructively enhances your interpersonal skills and emotional intelligence, which is crucial for your personal development. Your personal development ties in with your sense of resilience. You want to build your resilience. And one of the things a lot of times people don't realize that, you know what, you're not born being resilient. You've got to go through some stuff to become resilient. And that's why I'm saying that running for a political office with everything that we go through, I mean, waking up every morning, not knowing what the day is going to hold. Now, granted, we don't know on any other day, whatever we're doing, what the day is going to hold. But when it comes to politics and you're going to a political forum, for example, okay, here's how political forms, oh my goodness. First of all, you got to be prepared. You know, you've got to be on point with your platform, what you believe in. And it goes back for that self-discovery. When I mentioned earlier that self-discovery, you will, when you're running for a political office, because they're the people out there can be real persuasive. They can persuade you to do things or say things that are contrary, and before you know it, you're in this spiral and you're out of control. But that's where you got to go back and say, wait a minute, hold up, hold up. So when you're at a political forum, your campaign team, they're making sure that you're, I know when I ran for political office those 3 times, I had people on my team that we would role play. They would throw questions at me, and so you've got to think about your body language. You got to think about all of those things and how you answer, your tone, and all of that, and that allows you to help build your resilience muscle. Because think about it, in life, in business, you got to put together a business deal. You got to talk to the loan officer, and you're trying to get a loan where you've got to be able to have the strength, that resilience muscle that says, you know what, whatever conflict, whatever issue that might be in your past, that little blemish that might be on your past, that might just be what will either break or make the opportunity to get that loan. You've got to be ready for that. So running for political office helps you when it comes to conflict resolution, and conflict resolution goes across the board. Time management and prioritization, that goes along with the goal setting. Okay, when you're running for political office, juggling campaign responsibilities with personal life demands sharp time management skills. Think about it. You're running your business, and you're completely neglecting your family. You're neglecting your family, and your family is like, hey, look, what's going on, we don't ever see you anymore. Somehow you've got to figure out a way to integrate your family in your business, integrate them. And then what that does is help build that resilience muscle. Because guess what, most people, most families, both mom and dad are working. We're running. And somehow we've got to figure out a way to manage everything. We've got to figure out a way to help our family understand what we're doing. And so when we talk about time management and prioritization, you're going to learn those skills when you're running for a political office. Okay, you're going to learn those skills, and that's going to be helpful as you build whoever you are and what and who you want to be. Building a support system. Now, let me tell you, when you're running for political office, you don't want to have a wide net of a support system, because you're going to find out that wide support net of a support system ain't as wide as you thought. Let something happen in the campaign, and then it blows out of proportion. Okay, let something happen in that campaign, and then the person is going to be like, oh well, I'm out. I'm out, just like that. Sometimes with no explanation, they're gone. Okay, so that support system, you want that to be as small as possible. That is so important. I remember having a woman who was a supporter when I was running for state house seat in 2006. She was a supporter. I mean, a big supporter for the other candidate, and that's fine. And here's so let me say this. Some of y'all, I mean, you act like you've got to be somebody's enemy on just because somebody is running for a political office and you're friends with both of them. You've got to pick and choose. No, you don't have to pick away. You can pick and choose who you're going to vote for, but it doesn't mean that you got to pick and choose who's going to be your friend anymore. Come on now, how ridiculous is that? But that happens a lot. Oh my goodness. So all of a sudden, we've been friends for 10 years, 15 years, and then you're running against someone else who is also a friend of theirs, but maybe they're a closer friend with the other person, and it was like kick you to the curb. Boom. Okay. Now, if you don't think that can build your resilience, let me tell you, that can build your resilience, because that is going to happen. It's going to happen sooner or later. Okay. If you run for office at least one time, certainly if you run at least 2 times or 3 times like I did, you're going to have some of those things happen to you. Now, what's so interesting is all of the little things that I'm mentioning, all of them didn't happen in each campaign. I'm just collectively sharing little bits and pieces. But going back to this woman who decided to run for political office after that particular race, and her candidate won, and I remember there was a situation where she approached me about something, and I'm not gonna hate on her because she didn't like me during the time that I was running against her candidate. I'm like, I'm just not like that. So I remember I think she messaged me on Facebook or something, and she wanted to meet in person, and she just had some questions about um, how people can change when you run for political office, and how certain people who she thought were her friends, and they no longer associated themselves when she decided to run for political office. And she said, Helen, I just wanted to talk with you because I'm sure you know what I'm talking about and you've experienced. And so we had a nice, candid talk. You know, I told her that a lot of times who you think are your friends are not necessarily your friends when you're running for a political office. I mean, you can be the darling of Augusta. Man, I was the darling of Augusta. Everybody knew Helen Blocker Adams. We had the South Augusta business at breakfast meetings in South Augusta that went on for 10 years straight. I mean, lots of entrepreneurs and politicians came through, but when I announced I was running for the office of mayor, and I was told, running for mayor, why you want to start in mayor? It's not your turn yet. And why don't you start at a school board and work your way up? And that wasn't what I felt like God's calling was for me to do. And it was people in the community that said, Helen, you know what? You ought to run for mayor. And like I said, 2005, I was naive as all get out. Okay. I really was, but my heart was pure. My heart was pure. But I tell you what, my resilience grew since 2005. Okay, so we're running out of time here. So also, so oh my goodness, transformative ways that running for a political office can build your resilience. Okay, and we're going to talk. I've got to make sure that I talk at the end about why having resilience is even important. I'm putting a little pieces in there, as we're talking, but also learning to adapt. Okay. This is I think I'm on number 7, if I believe. I think I have 2 more. Learning to adapt. Campaigns are unpredictable. Oh boy. Adapting to new information, strategies, and feedback fosters flexibility and a problem solving mindset. Key components of resilience. Okay. For example, learning to adapt. Now, remember, I mentioned that on any given day, you just don't know what's going to happen. The energy is high. Your campaign meetings are high. Everybody is all excited, especially when you got the campaign signs and you're putting the campaign signs out, and it's just a lot of a high, if you will, and that was the fun part of running for a political office. But there was in the 2006 campaign when I was running for a state house center seat here in Augusta, and talking about learning to adapt and deal with conflict resolution. And yes, I got a phone call from the director of the Board of Elections. I mean, she called me and she says, Helen, I just want to let you know that at such and such location, there are a bunch of your signs. Now, this was in the beginning of the campaign. Okay. So the sign should not have been like in a dumpster. It wasn't a dumpster, but it was a makeshift dump place that 30, 40 of my signs were just dumped there. Someone who on my campaign that had gotten, that was one of the people to put the signs out. We had a team of people, and one person, I never knew who it was. I never brought it up to the campaign team because obviously it was someone on my team. And then I had the person that dealt with a lot of picking up the signs and putting them out. And he went over there, and sure enough, it was like 30 to 40 of my signs, just as big as they in just like a makeshift dumpster. Now, talking about having to adapt, talking about having your feelings hurt, knowing that somebody on the inside had your signs and just dumped them. Why did they get this? My thing was, why did they get the signs in the first place? If they didn't want to put the signs out and they really disliked me that much to do that, why would they do that? And I never, and then now, we had our suspicions. And I remember my mom telling me she had her suspicions, and she was probably right, but it was hurtful, y'all. But I had to adapt real quick, okay, because we were on a high that particular day when we were talking about putting all of the signs out and how the signs, we were putting them all throughout the district and that particular day. And so the day before, we had a campaign meeting, and then I get that phone call the next day. Learning how to adapt. You got to learn how to be resilient. And that resilient muscle is going to build when things like this happen to you. Because you got to realize I wasn't going to quit my campaign. I wasn't going to go into a pity party about it. But we had to adapt real quick. And I had to act like I didn't know. And obviously that person probably was still working on the campaign, looking at me whenever we met. And I didn't even know exactly who that was. You got to learn how to adapt. Number 8, empathy and understanding. One thing about running for a political office, you learn how to engage with diverse communities, fosters empathy and a broader perspective. And that's one of the things that I brought to the table was, my broad perspective because of me being a military brat and living in so many different places and countries. Okay. And so that's real important. If you're able to be empathetic and understanding, and when you think about politics, you think conflict and power. That conflict can be resolved with conflict resolution, being more empathetic and understanding. But sometimes, guys, if you don't build that resilience muscle, it's going to be hard for you to do that. Okay. The last one, and we're talking about 9 transformative ways that running for a political office can build your resilience, is your commitment to continuous improvement. You can run for a political office, and whether you win or you lose, you're going to build this resilience. You're going to be stronger. You're going to be stronger as a person. You're going to know more about yourself. You're going to know more about time management and all of these things that we've been talking about so that you can be a better person in whatever career area that you're in. That's powerful, y'all. Candidates often seek feedback to improve their strategies and communications. Yes, after each loss, you look back and you wonder, okay, look at what we could have done this, we could have done that. And certainly in the 2014 race, there was a lot of mistakes that I made. A lot of mistakes, but my heart was still pure. And the 2014 race, that is going to be the topic of another episode, maybe in more detail. But I can tell you that if your heart is pure, somehow you're going to be resilient and bounce back. Okay. All right. So here's what I want to do. I want to share with you how a lack of resilience, having a lack of resilience can be a big problem, guys. Okay. Remember, we talked about resilience and being able to snap back. And people have said, Helen, you're so resilient, you're strong. And the thing about it, my challenges are no different or higher or lower than many of you that's gone through challenges. But what you've got to do is be able to embrace it and accept certain things so that you can be able to move on and build that resilience muscle. Some people are still struggle with getting past a huge adversity, but you've got to learn how to quickly adapt. Like I was sharing about, I mean, some people would have been bummed out when they get a phone call from the board of elections director saying that you got a bunch of your signs that are in an area, that was supposed to have been hidden, a bunch of them. And this was at the beginning of the campaign. Somebody in my camp, some people would be like, man, they would have gone off on, the campaign staff or whatever. But I just took a deep breath and I'm saying, okay, Lord, I know I got an enemy in the camp, probably more than one, but somehow you got to keep going. So a lack of resilience, folks, can be a big problem because it makes you vulnerable to stress and mental health issues like anxiety and depression. It can lead to impaired decision making, strained relationships, and poor job performance. People with low resilience are also more prone to unhealthy coping mechanisms, such as substance abuse, and face negative physical health consequences, including heart disease and a weakened immune system. Stress can be a killer. Okay. If you don't figure out a way how to navigate in this uncertain world that we live in and figure out a way to bounce back, it's going to be hard. And increased stress and anxiety, mental health issues, poor coping skills, all of this will affect your daily life and your work life. And we want to get better. We want to be able to reset and reinvent. We want to be able to build that resilience muscle so that we don't have these challenges, or at least they're minimized. So what can you do if you're struggling? As we wrap up today's episode of Reset to Reinvent. Practice self-care. We are still in the middle of National Self-Care Awareness Month. There is something to self-care, folks. It really is. Self-care is a part of that is taking care of yourself, taking time for yourself, finding times to journal, finding times to just step back and remember who you are and whose you are. Have more conversations with that small inner circle that's close to you, that understands you, and not just your rubber stamp person, someone that would say, you know what, Helen, you know what, Judy, you know what, Joe, this is what needs to happen. You don't need a whole bunch of yes people in your circle, because then that's more trouble. Okay, that can be more trouble. Seek support, friends, family, healthcare professionals for support. Learn how to be positive. That's one of the things that kept me through, even in that situation with in the 2014 race, everything from people unfriending me, people in high positions at companies that didn't touch me after the mayor's race, wouldn't return phone calls. Those type of things happened after the 2014 race, and I still kept a positive attitude. Was it hurtful? Absolutely. Did it hurt when I found out that someone had dumped all of those signs someplace that wasn't supposed to be found? Yeah. Get to the next campaign meeting and I'm looking around like, okay, who's the culprit? Just don't know. Just never know. We just never. Because if we had have addressed it, then that would have made a negative impact on the morale of the campaign. Because those who were with me, then they would have been looking side-eyed. And so the morale of the whole team. So we just decided, no, we're going to stay positive. We're going to stay positive. We're going to be resilient. And we're going to keep moving forward. Now, we did not win that mayor's race. Okay. I ended up coming in third. A close third. I had 23% of the vote, and the person in the second place had 25% of the vote. Okay, so I did pretty good. Sure did, for the first time running for a political office. Okay, so if you're struggling, there's resilience training and focus on building your emotional intelligence and coping skills. And you know where you can find some of those as we wrap up today's episode of Reset to Reinvent. You can go to my Stand store, and I've got some books. I've got one book on there called Mental Toughness. Go to my website, resettoreinvent.com. Click on the store, the Stand store. Okay, when you click there on the menu item, and then you'll find that book. Okay, that ebook, Mental Toughness. Oh, that book is going to give you some gems to help you get past whatever it is that you're dealing with. Okay, and we're talking about building that resilience. You want to be more resilient, and mental toughness is going to help you do that. Now, also, if you go to HBA Academy, that's a school, SKOOL community. You can find the link in all of my Facebook page, my Instagram page. You can go on there and be able to click on that link and go straight to HBA Academy. And I've got 18 different books, ebooks, and or online courses that will be able to help you build your resilience. You become more resilient, you're going to be a force to be reckoned with. I promise you. Guys, that's all I got for today's episode. I want to thank you so much for joining me. And once again, no, you don't need to run for a political office, but I can tell you that running for a political office will help you build resilience. I want to thank you so much for joining me for this episode of Reset to Reinvent. Why? Because you were born to be inspired.
Reset to Reinvent podcast. We are living in uncertain times. Job security is becoming more elusive. People are losing their jobs. Companies are closing. But wait, have you ever considered a career as an insurance agent? Just a thought. Our much talked about ebook, 8 Reasons to Become a Life Insurance Agent, can help you decide if it's for you or not. Order your copy today. Visit our website, Reset to Reinvent, and click on the Reinvent store. Who knows? It may be the best decision you've made in a long